Recording in progress. Okay, so I've got a PowerPoint that I've made to share. Hopefully that will it helps to keep me on track, and also then it's something for people to refer back to as well. So let me just share that. And then, can you all see that? Yeah, thanks, Martha. So the first thing to say is that we want to, so when the children have come off and finished their Read Write Inc, which hopefully in an ideal world, Olivia, is at Christmas of year 2, but you never know, especially with the 2 lockdowns. I anticipate that in year 2 we're probably going to delay that a bit, and in year 1 you might have some bright sparks that have come off of Read Write Inc early already. I know Olivia Theobald definitely does have a couple in her class that are already accessing guided reading. So this is the Salford reading test that we use. I'm just going to speak as if you guys have never heard of this before, just for the benefit of like some of the new staff that we've got who hopefully will watch this back later. So I know that this isn't new information to you guys, but I'll talk as though it is. So the Salford reading test basically is a kind of generic test that will test their word reading and also their inference skills. So we have Form A, Form B and Form C, all that are on the Federation Teachers files that you can find. And it doesn't really matter what order you do the tests, as long as you do one every half term to assess where the children are. So the children basically get a mark for their literal, so if they've managed to read the sentence, and they then have a question to answer, which I haven't put the picture up, but there's basically a question sheet that goes with this that also can be found on the Federation Teachers thing. So you ask the literal, so it basically be asking, like, for the first one, what colour is the pen? That's red. And then so they would get a mark for the literal, and they would get a mark for the inference question. Can't think about, it might be something like, what might they use the pen to draw? And then they might say a traffic light, in which case that would be fine because it's got red in it. But if they said like a pond, you'd be like, well, no, you're mental, you wouldn't draw a red pond unless there's been a murder. So that's how that works. And then they would get a total at the bottom, so they would get 34, because it's mark for each, so it's 17 questions in total, so they get 34, and that score basically helps you to then convert that into a reading age score, which I'll go on to in a minute. They don't complete the whole test, however. You can see just from this PowerPoint that some of the words are bold and some of them are not bold, so the children can make up to 6 mistakes on the bold words. So the idea is when they get to make the 6th mistake on just a bold word, that's when you stop the test. So if the child didn't read, if the child managed to read the first 2, but then they didn't read the word we, must, home, dinner, now, or some, you would then stop the test on some, and you wouldn't carry on the test anymore. That's where that child's level is, and you would just count the marks they'd got before question 4. So that's when to stop it. So that's how, so yeah, don't, basically if they're reading it and they can't read it, there's no point in continuing on the test, because obviously that's, their reading age is not that high. So yeah, stop the test after the 6 bold words. So the idea is they should all be able to read the non-bold words, because they're fairly simple and they're sight words that they should be able to work out. So that's the Salford reading test. So once you have got that, again, this is all available on OneDrive under the assessment bit on the Federation Teachers, and then there's reading trackers, so that's the folder. So you can see I was talking about the mark out of 34. So this then gives them a reading age. So let's say they got 19, their reading age would be 8 years and 2 months. So that's how you work that out. So this then gives you a reading age. So the first thing to do is to work out what their reading age is. And then there's another document, which is the reading age converter, and this will give you their accelerated reader band, basically. So the accelerated reader, so let's say they got 8 years and 2 months, that means their accelerated reader level is a 3.8. So that helps you then to convert that. So then once you've got to this stage, you have a reading age of the child, and you have what their accelerated reader band is. So the accelerated reader band books are all the ones that are in the book corners. So your Harry Potters, your Diary of a Wimpy Kids, all those ones that you've got, can see have all got a sticker on. And it's basically, there's a website where you can just put in any book and it will give you what the accelerated reader level is for that child. And when we brought it in, the idea was that we want the children not to be like put a ceiling on their reading level, but we don't want children to feel demoralized that they go to the book corner, pick up, like I remember when I used to teach in year 4, they'd pick up Harry Potter, some of the lower readers look at it and be like, oh god, I can't read that. So if we want them to recognize that if they want to read a book that they know they'll be able to access and feel comfortable doing, that if they know that they've got a AR band of 3.8, anything around there they're going to open up and feel comfortable being able to read. So it's kind of like boosting their confidence of their book choices, and helping them to understand it a bit more, what's kind of right. And then if they want a challenge, obviously they know anything higher will be more challenging to read, and likewise they just want an easy read, anything below is going to be easy for them to do. So once you've got those two things, again in the same place, there is a tracker. So this is, I've just got the seal one here. Excuse me. So you fill in the reading age, which was the score from the Salford test, and then you'd put the accelerated reader level next to that. So we know what their reading age was at the beginning of the year, and we know what their accelerated reader level was, and then obviously for term 2, term 3, etc., all the way up to term 6, so that those two things are recorded, and we can track the children's progress to check that they're making progress in their reading ages, and that they're obviously then the corresponding AR levels will go up as well. And it's really important that not the reading age is shared with the child, because that might be a bit demoralizing if they are below their age, but that their AR level is shared with them. And that they understand, like what I've just said, that is for a guideline for them to know what books in their book corner will be a good level for them, will be challenging, or will be easy, like a more relaxed read, I suppose. And the guidance from Accelerated Reader is that they can read anything, they're sort of advised by their teachers to read anything 0.5 up or 0.5 down. So if it was a 3.5, they could read anything from a 4 to a 3, for example, and that's going to be within their kind of level to read, so that they understand that. And that's one of the things going forward that I want to start monitoring / going to get Rachel to monitor is that the children in the classes across the Federation understand what an AR level is, and they understand what they're there for and how that can help them to choose an appropriate book. And so for Key Stage 1, we can still sort of advise them that the purple and the pink coloured books are the ones that are really appropriate for the younger readers. So I think for a year 1 child to be able to tell us that, oh yes, I like to read the purple and the pink books because, you know, I find those easy to read and they've got lots of pictures in, that shows that they have that basic year 1 level understanding of what the reading books look like in the book corners. So what I was just saying, they need to know, so they can choose an appropriate book level. They can choose anything 0.5 or above or below, and it helps them to know if the book they pick will challenge them or not. So yeah, and then that leads me on to the Big Cat Collins books. So this is the scheme, if you like, that the Key Stage 2 children across the Federation should be on. So it's 4 Elms already had this when we merged as a federation, and we sort of took that, you know, the feedback was that it worked really well for the children. They understood especially in years 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, they understood the system, so they were able to independently change their books, so it worked well for them. So we actually purchased 2 lots of Big Cat Collins books for Key Stage 2 children, so only from purple upwards, so halfway through year 2 basically and upwards. And the idea is that unlike the Read Write Inc, where they have to be read 3 times in a row, the idea is they would still change their books on a Monday and a Thursday, but they would have expected to have finished that book by the Thursday and then return it for a new one. As you get to more higher up, like the Sapphire, the Diamond and the Pearl, those books are a lot longer, and to be fair, if you've got sort of a year 2, 3 or 4 child reading those, use your discretion. Like, it might be that they don't finish that book within a week, just because of their attention span is lower than that of a year 5 or 6 child. So yeah, use your discretion, but that's kind of the guidelines, that we want the books changed twice a week, Monday and a Thursday, because that means they get a new one for the weekend and long enough to read it over the weekend. So to find out what Big Cat Collins book they are, you basically look at the reading age that you had from the Salford test that tells you what year and month they are. So if they came out at age 6, between an age 6 and an age 7, then you would obviously send home a purple or a gold book. If they came out at a 7 or 8 or a 7.5, for example, it would be a copper or a topaz book. So it's just basically looking at the reading age you got originally from converting the Salford reading score, and then corresponding it to this chart, which again can be found in that same folder on OneDrive, and then just looking at what colour that means the child is. And then we have a tracker for that as well. So here you just would put the date of when that child achieved that level. So for example, if we had done the first assessment at the beginning of the year, we might have filled in that Leo was purple on the 6th of September 2021. When we did his assessment at October half term, he'd moved up to white. So we put in the white that he was white on the 20th of October 2021. So then we should be able to see Leo's progression as he goes through the year, and see where he reaches. Obviously for year 2 children and some year 1s, you won't have all of your children with everything filled in, because it might be that only 3 or 4 of them are on the Big Cat Collins scheme, so you wouldn't have it all filled in for everybody. So it's just the ones that have completed Read Write Inc and above, basically. So yeah, this tracker needs to be filled in as well, along with the previous one. And this also then, one of the reasons this is really important that we do is then the teacher next year that inherits your class can just look on this, and at the end of the year they can see exactly what book band each child was on, and that then saves them and you guys, because you're inheritor class, a massive job come the September term. So yeah, books need to be changed twice a week. And for all new members of staff as well that maybe aren't aware, the reading records that go home, every time a child reads, they get 1 happy mark, but it needs to be, so if they read 5 times in one day, that wouldn't mean 5 happy marks. It has to be each day. So if they read 5 times in a day, well done for you, but that's 1 happy mark. And then if they read 2 times the next day, great, but that's still 1 happy mark. So it's basically per day. So to encourage them to read but not to cheat. And then what's really, really important is that we keep a record of what Big Cat Collins book has been sent home with each child. And also, I think Olivia would probably agree for Read Write Inc as well, because those book band books that we send home for Read Write Inc are equally as expensive as the Big Cat Collins one. So it's up to you guys how you want to track your books, but this is the one that I had and Kira now has. So all I do is have the children's names highlighted with the colour of the books. That just makes it easier for me to remember what one they need to change. And then each week I just write down the book that they have being given, and I will only give them a new book if they have returned to me the old book. That's really, really important. And I know that we want the children to be reading at home, but the reality is, if Vinny, for example, here was given the band in the first one, and knowing Vinny, I know that if I then had given him another one there and another one there and another one there and another one there, I still would not have got any of those books back. So it's really important, because and then he wouldn't have read them either. So you've got to sort of, you've got to be quite on it, and with the parents as well. If you haven't had a book back in 2 or 3 book changing times, you need to be proactive and email that parent and say, look, so and so was sent home with this book on this date, I need it back please, so I can send him home a new one. Because they cost the school so much money, and we just can't afford to replace them. And the children need to understand that, and the parents need to understand that as well, that these books, it's not good enough to say, oh, I've lost it. Like, it needs to be returned. So again, one of the things I'm going to be monitoring going forward is that everybody has some way of tracking their books that are going home and coming back, because at Seal, we're just doing a massive recall now of all our Big Cat Collins books, asking for them all to be returned this week, so that we can see what we actually have, because at the moment we're not even being able to send home the Key Stage 2 books to the children because there aren't enough of them, whereas there were enough when we first bought them, because we bought 2 full sets. So it's really important, Key Stage 2 teachers, that you track the Big Cat Collins books, because they just were so expensive and we can't afford to replace them. We really invested a lot of money and a lot of time in raising that money as well. It wasn't just out of the budget, it was raised money that we did through a sponsored read and other various things. So it needs to be, they really, really need to be looked after, and we need to be tracking where they are, especially at Seal, now the school's expanded so much. There's a lot more houses for them to visit the books. So the last thing I just wanted to say is, we obviously have this system to track their progress and to allow the children to have access to high quality books to take home. But one thing I do notice when I go around the classrooms is that the children don't seem to have much of a respect for books. Even the library, and I know that at Four Elms it was the same when you guys did a massive tidy up of the library last year. They don't seem to respect them. You quite often see like a child, like just bending a book, or like flicking like that with it, or like they put them on the floor by the book corner. They don't line them up like as they should do on the book corner with the spine facing out. It takes training, and the children need to be taught to look after them. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I feel like the children last year in my class, I really spent time investing that in them, and the book corner was then always tidy. They were all really responsible for their books. They understood how valuable they were, and I didn't really realize how good they were at doing that until I've inherited my new class, where I'm not digging at you, Martha, I'm just saying they're little and they're young, and now I'm like, oh, for goodness, why are you not used to this kind of disrespect of the books? So I think it really needs to be explicitly taught, and it needs to be something that teachers value, and they need to be taught that, because going around and having these amazing book corners that all the teachers have created, filled with books that are upside down, left to right, and bent because the children haven't been respecting them, is just really sad to see. And not only that, as a collective, as teachers, we all got together and spent ages banding those books, ages throwing out the ones that were tatty and rubbish, and now looking around at some of the book corners, we're getting books that look tatty and rubbish again. And I know there weren't any there because we threw them all out and we were really meticulous about it. So please try and install that with the children. It takes time, but it just needs to keep being reinforced and needs to be explicitly taught to them. So yeah, that's it really. So I'm hoping that once everyone's watched this week, the first week back, we can assess the children using the Salford reading test and put our first assessments in for this would be term 1, and then we'll assess them again at the end at Christmas, so that we know that's going to be the end of term 2. So it's almost as if we did it side of the half term, but because of how busy everything is this week, and because people need time to watch this after half term, the first week back, we need to assess the children, fill that in the first week, and obviously for key stage 1, that's just going to be your children that have finished Read Write Inc. So yeah, any questions? You sure, Martha?
It's not a question, but I don't know if you wanted it recorded. Because it's for people, you know, as a training thing.
What do you mean recorded?
Because obviously you're recording this for people to watch. My question, it was kind of more of a thing, was, I don't know if this is me, but whenever I printed out the Salford test, the bold words aren't very clear that they're bold. Do we have another kind of like a higher quality, not quality, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Thing?
Lindsay does have a hard copy of them.
Okay, cool.
So you can ask her for the hard copy, or I can directly send you the file. Maybe that might be better.
Yeah, that might work. Whatever's easier.
Yeah,
that'd be amazing. Thank you, because it's just quite hard to see what I remembered a few of them, but it's quite hard to see the bold ones.
Yeah. The original is colour, so it does make it easier.
Thanks.
Cool. Wicked. Well, I look forward to hopefully seeing the children with all their lovely books going home and coming back, more importantly. Thank you guys for turning up, much appreciated, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
No problem.
See you.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.